Welcome to the study session where we are breaking down the BCBA 6th edition test content outline. Today we are diving deep into Task A.2, which requires us to explain the philosophical assumptions underlying behavior analysis, specifically selectionism, determinism, empiricism, parsimony, and pragmatism.
This task sits right at the top of Domain A, which represents about 5% of the BCBA exam. That might only be 8 questions, but honestly, these assumptions are the operating system for your entire brain as a behavior analyst. If your philosophy is off, your data will be too.
Exactly. Let's start with the absolute foundation, determinism. This is the core belief that the universe is a lawful and orderly place where all phenomena occur as the result of other events.
I love the way that's phrased. It basically means nothing happens, just because. If a client suddenly has an outburst after 3 weeks of zero behavior, a determinist doesn't say, "Oh, he's just having a bad Tuesday." We assume something in the environment triggered it. If we didn't believe in determinism, we wouldn't bother with the 175 scored questions on this exam because we'd think behavior was just random chaos.
It's the why behind the what. And that leads us to selectionism, which is how the environment chooses which behaviors stick around. B.F. Skinner gave us 3 ways the environment applies itself to us. First, there's phylogenic selection, which is the natural evolution of the species.
Right, that's the stuff we come pre-installed with, like breathing or blinking. Then we have ontogenic selection, which is how the environment changes an individual over his or her own lifetime based on consequences. This is the heart of what we do in ABA. If a kid asks for water and gets a drink, that behavior is selected to happen again.
And the third one, which people often forget, is cultural selection. This is the passing of behavior from one person to another through imitation and modeling. It's why we use certain slang or follow specific social rules. It's selection at a group level.
So, if we believe behavior is determined and selected, how do we actually prove it? We use empiricism. This is the objective observation of events that are based on data.
This is where we stop guessing and start measuring. For example, instead of just saying a child's tantrum was short or long, an empiricist is recording duration data to empirically determine the length of a behavior. It's about sticking to the facts that we can actually see and count.
But sometimes just observing isn't enough to see the why, which is why we use experimentation. This involves the comparison of a dependent variable under 2 or more different conditions. The gold standard here is that only the independent variable varies from one condition to another.
If you change 3 things at once, you have no idea which one actually worked. That's why we are so meticulous in our research. But even a perfect experiment can be a fluke, which is why we need replication. This is the repeating of experiments to determine the reliability and usefulness of findings.
Replication is how we discover mistakes. It's like a fact check for science. We need it in order for a finding to be accepted as a pattern. If a study says a certain intervention cures elopement, but no one can replicate those results, we shouldn't be using it with our clients.
That healthy level of skepticism is actually its own assumption, philosophical doubt. It means continually questioning the truthfulness of what is regarded as fact. Just because a textbook said it 10 years ago doesn't mean it's still the absolute truth. We keep a healthy level of skepticism about everything, including our own data.
It keeps us from getting arrogant. Now, let's talk about my favorite one, parsimony. This rule says that all simple, logical explanations for phenomena must be considered first.
I love the mom example for this. If your mom didn't call you back last night, there is a simple explanation: maybe she was busy, her phone died, or she was asleep. You don't jump to the conclusion that she's been abducted or that she's secretly mad at you for something you said in 2015.
Exactly. In the clinic, if a kid is crying, we check if they are hungry, tired, or hurt before we start theorizing about complex emotional breakthroughs. We look for the simplest environmental explanation that fits the facts.
Finally, we have pragmatism. This is the does it work rule. We analyze outcomes and procedures based on results. It relies on inductive reasoning, which is drawing a general rule from specific observations.
Pragmatism puts a huge emphasis on the value of the knowledge and truth based on the results it produces. In ABA, this means treatment plans should be data-based and individualized. We don't just use a generic plan because it worked for someone else in the past. We evaluate the interventions based on the specific client in front of us. If the data says it's not working for this person, a pragmatist changes the plan.
These assumptions are what make us a science rather than just a collection of good ideas. When you're sitting for the exam, remember that every question is viewed through this lens. If a question asks about data, think empiricism. If it asks about simplicity, think parsimony.
It's a lot to keep straight, but it really boils down to being a disciplined thinker.
For more practice questions that challenge your understanding of these philosophical roots, head over to www.bcbamockexam.com.
Catch you later.
Bye.